Is XRP centralized? Yes and no. Let me explain the no, and then I'll explain the yes. And you really want to understand what these words mean if you're going to throw them around and attach it to things like Bitcoin or XRP. So let's talk about centralization. The system you've been born into, the banking system, which seems very normal to you, if you really think about it, you have no power, you have no control. You have to ask for permission and get approval to send money, especially large sums of money. That's a power that is centralized with the banks and always has been for a very long time. And if you have like $10, $15, $25,000 in the bank, if you try and go and pull it out of the bank, you try and withdraw it, they'll tell you it's not there, so it's fake anyways. Now what XRP does, it takes that power and drains it from the banking system. It decentralizes it and fractionalizes it, almost like liquid, and then spreads it across the XRP tokens and the XRP ledger. The XRP ledger is permissionless and decentralized, with the XRP token being the native token for the platform. So by definition, it's decentralized. So that if you own the XRP token, you now have access to the power the banks once had, which makes the banks take a different route to come back to have that power, which creates an even playing field with everybody that actually owns the tokens. So it kind of diffuses the idea that XRP is like voting for central banks. It's completely the opposite, actually. The whole idea of XRP and the XRP ledger is to pull the power away from the central banks, give it to anybody who wants in, and then make them come at it from a different angle where everybody has access. So it's a nonsense that you're voting for centralized banking systems if you own or support the XRP token. So let's now go over why people say XRP is centralized. First, you really have to get that when an ego is threatened, it goes on the attack. Bitcoin people like to say XRP is centralized. It's really all that they can say, because the fact is Ripple, the company, is the custodian of the escrow account that holds about 40-something billion tokens right now of XRP, and there's only 100 billion in existence. But see, that escrow account used to be over 50 billion, so as time goes on, and as time will go on, that's going to disappear. But because they're the custodian of that escrow account, Bitcoin people will tell you it's centralized holding. But here's the problem with that. A handful of very wealthy miners own most of the Bitcoin. So you can't get a little bit pregnant. It's either one person holds too much or few people hold too much. It's the same thing. So it's nonsense. What Ripple is actually doing and has been doing is protecting the coin from going up and down with crazy markets, because they can distribute the XRP token to the right partners, institutions, banks, ETFs, things like that, because they can do it without changing the price of the token and manipulating the market. So they're the custodian, they're the guardian of basically the future and not being affected by the markets. It's very responsible. But Bitcoin people think in terms of retail money. They're not thinking in terms of institutional approach and business and enterprise. Ripple has done the most responsible thing by being the guardian of that escrow account, so it doesn't get into the hands of people that it shouldn't, like Bitcoin, where it's already tainted with dirtiness, trafficking, all that nasty stuff. It's already tainted. You can't do any of that with XRP. It's the light. So here's what's going to happen next, and it's going to destroy this whole XRP is centralized. The 40-something billion that's in the escrow account. As countries begin to make their strategic reserves, and Ripple can strategically allocate billions here and billions there, that escrow account's going to disappear. And there's going to be no more, oh, XRP is centralized. It's going to be gone. That leg to stand on, that attack is going to be gone. And Bitcoin is probably being left out of this conversation in multiple countries. That's why Bitcoin people feel really threatened right now. And you really have to understand, the only thing that gives Bitcoin value is the fact that people hold it, not its function. Its function in the white paper is peer-to-peer cash transfer. It's failed at that. It takes way too long. It's not efficient. If you do the math, it makes no sense for everybody to have some Bitcoin. It doesn't make any sense. It failed in its design. So it becomes this like holding store of value narrative, because it's like it has to, kind of like global warming turned into climate change just to fit the circumstances. They changed the narrative. So it doesn't make any sense. But what's going to happen is once XRP gets allocated, all of them will be holding all of the XRP, which is the same thing that gives value to Bitcoin, except XRP actually has a function that works for the world. So is XRP centralized? Yes and no. but not really yes.